I missed to talk with you before. Now I'm lucky.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad we can make it work.
Thank you so much for joining with me. Can you introduce yourself to my audience?
Yeah. So my name is Martina. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, here in the United States. And I work at a medical company in their finance department. And I just started a podcast a few months ago. So yeah.
I'm following you. I have seen all your recording sound. Your
Oh,
voice, your vocal
good.
cord is fantastic.
Oh,
I
thank
I
you.
just started knowing about podcast
Yeah,
after seeing you. I'm following you
that's
from last few
awesome.
days. Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
and that made me to contact you. That made me to talk with you. Can
Yeah.
you tell more about podcast and when you started it and when you who inspired you and who told you, or is that your own idea, or
Yeah. So I had a job before where I was just working on the computer all day, and so we were allowed to listen to music and podcasts or whatever we wanted to listen to. And so I just was a really big podcast fan, and so I never thought I would start one ever. But it's a Christian podcast. So at my church, at the beginning of this year, we had 21 days of prayer and fasting. And so while I was praying, I wasn't, praying for anything in particular, but I was just going and just being faithful. And just this idea came out of nowhere to start my own podcast. And I'm a pretty quiet person. Like, I don't really like to talk a lot. And so it was just weird. It was just weird. It came out of nowhere because I never would have decided to start one on my own. But I just had the idea to have a podcast where people could come on and share their stories on like the incredible things that God is doing in their life. Like if he healed them from something that, maybe the doctors thought was impossible, or, if they overcame like an addiction or, whatever it is. I just wanted to have a platform for people to come and like share their stories so that other people can hear them and like be encouraged. So, yeah.
it means you share stories of other people, or
Yeah, yeah. So each week I have a different guest come on. Some are family and friends, or some are referrals, or sometimes I'll just reach out to total strangers and ask them like, hey, I follow you kind of on social media, and I see that you're a Christian. Do you have a testimony that you want to share? And so it's just totally different people each week, and they just share their story on what God has been doing in their life for them. So
any
yeah.
specific topic, or the random questions?
No, so I'll have them come on and they'll just start kind of narrating their own story. Um, Sometimes it's a story on how they didn't believe in God and how over the years, like they slowly started seeing God in these different ways and they finally decided, okay, I want to follow God now. And so sometimes it's just a story like that, or it's more elaborate. Like I know one guy, he was robbed at gunpoint, and so there's different stories. So there's no one topic per se. I mean, I guess the what joins them all together is just that it's a story about God, and that we give the honor to God that He's the one that helped us through this situation, and that He's the one that we leaned on. And so I guess that's the common thread through all of them. But it could be any topic really. So
How many people joined you till today?
like at listening or guests.
Like guest or list? Guest. I mean,
Guests.
yeah,
So
guest.
so what's today? Is today Wednesday? Yeah, today's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, here in the U.S. it's Wednesday.
Okay.
um, so each Wednesday an episode comes out. So today episode 16 came out. So I
I saw the
yeah,
promo.
yeah. So I had 15 guests because the first one was just me. Um, but I also, when I first started it, I wanted to be very consistent, and I didn't want to ever accidentally miss an episode because something happened in life, or I ran out of guests. And so when I first started, I was going hard, like I need as many guests as I can get, and I just kept going, going, going. And so I have enough guests right now to get me through, I think, the first week of October. So they're already recorded. I just have to each week say, okay, let's do this one this week, and then I just have to edit it, put like the intro music and stuff on. So I haven't counted it, but I think that's like 25 or 26 guests. Or no, because I'm already on 16. I don't know, dude. I just have a lot because I was so nervous. I didn't want to ever not have the content to put it out. Um, and so, yeah, but as far as listeners go, The first week it was really strong. It was like 70 people, and I was like, wow, this is so encouraging. But honestly, it's goes down sometimes, then it goes up, and so I mean, it just depends because it's a new endeavor. I believe in what I'm doing, so I mean, at the end of the day, if one person listens and really gets something out of it, then I feel happy about that. So yeah, it's just up and down. So just just keep going and believing in what I'm doing. So yeah.
So, what was your feeling when you're doing with the person, with the first person, and what is your feeling today? Uh, you did one guest came to you right today. So, what
Uh-huh.
is your feeling today, and what was your feeling when you was doing with the first person? Is there any change
Well,
in you?
uh, yes. So the person whose episode came out today, I recorded him maybe like 3 or 4 months ago, and I was
Okay.
just waiting to put his out because I get more women guests than I get male guests, and so I wanted the podcast to sound more diverse, like male and female, different ethnicities and different countries, and so I purposely pushed him further back because I want to have at least one male guest each month. I have so many women, but it's like the men. If I get 3 men to agree to share their story, I won't put them in the order in which that I receive them. I'm going to spread it out so that it sounds like, oh, I have more guys. So I recorded his a long time ago at this close to the same time as I recorded the first person. But
Okay.
as far as like the first time I've recorded someone compared to the last time that I recorded someone, yeah, totally different. So like the first person, they'll share their story, and like while they're talking, I'll kind of take notes so I can kind of know what questions I want to ask them because I don't know, I get nervous and then I'm fumbling over my words, and I don't want it to be like that. So I like to take notes and say, okay, I think these are a couple things I want to talk about at the end. So they do their part, then at the end I ask my questions. And so for her, I think as she was talking, my notes, they were all over the place. Like at the end, when I was trying to ask my questions, I could barely read them. I was just so it was just such a mess. Like I could barely read them, or I was like, what does that mean? What was I gonna ask? Like maybe I only wrote one word down and I don't even know what that was supposed to mean. Um, but now I've started like so basically when they're sharing their story, in order for me to be able to ask a really good question personally, I feel like I have to write the question down as it comes to my head while they're talking, word for word. But that means that while they're talking during that portion, I like have completely tuned them out. I don't know what they're saying because I'm focused on, so tell me about how when you were a child and your mother abandoned you, how did that make you? And I'm writing this down word for word, so I have no idea what they're saying because I'm like, so it's like a give and take, but it helps me at the end to ask like a well thought out question instead of my notes just being one word and I don't know what question I was going to ask. Um, and so now I do more of that, just writing it down like word for word. Because it's kind of weird, like talking to someone for the first time. Um, and all the pressure is on you to ask good questions. Like you have to ask the good questions, and so it's different when it's a stranger, and then it's different if I actually know the person. So if I know the person, it's a little more conversational because they're friends or family friends. But when it's strangers, it's harder. So yeah, it's definitely different from
So,
when I first started.
okay. So, podcast means you will not show your face, right? Only the voice. People
Right.
listen to your voice.
Right. Yeah, it's only the voice. So sometimes, well, I think in the future I may kind of branch off to different things, but right now it's just voice. But we'll see. We'll see what the future holds.
You know what? You have a great voice. You have
Oh, thank you.
you have voice which can create interest in people. I
That's
was
good.
yeah I my interest shifted to you. I decided to talk with you only by listening to your voice. Then I started seeing your pictures, and then I
Yeah.
started seeing how you look and all. But firstly, I listened to the voice, and I already did videos with Italy uh, podcast guy and
Mhm.
a England podcast person, and now I'm talking with you. But I was not feeling. I mean, I was not so interested in about the podcast and all. But when I started listening to you, even today, you have released a 1 minute or 2 minutes sound clip.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
That was interesting. That made me to listen to you.
that's
I'm
awesome.
following you. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
missed a video to do with you long back, but I was waiting from the morning. Now the time is 9 p.m.
Yeah, thank you,
So,
man. That means a lot.
and you was telling that nobody, I mean, you was telling that when you was in church, you got that idea to do the podcast. So uh, you didn't spoke before, and you started in podcast. You have to talk a lot. You have to explain things, and a person comes to you and he tells his story, and you have to explain it, and you have to ask the questions. I'm doing the same with you right
Yeah,
now. This
yeah,
is I can understand what you feel because I already
yeah.
know it. So do you thought that you're going to be successful or you're going to do it well, in the beginning? I'm asking this question because there are a lot of people who wants to start something in their life like you did.
Hmm.
So I want you to explain the beginning, how you felt and what was in your mind about yourself. You have to come and you have to talk and you have to use proper words, exact words which can explain the topic or the person or anything. So can you explain the beginning?
Yeah, so I'm an introvert, and so when the idea first came, I was like, what? I'm going to be talking to a bunch of people? Like, of course, sure, I can start with just friends and family, but eventually I'm going to run out and I'm going to have to talk to people I don't know. And so that was, I guess it kind of made me nervous, but the idea was so great to me that I decided that I was going to do it no matter what. And as a Christian, I just felt that it was from God. And so I was like, well, whether I'm scared or not, like I'm going to do it because I feel like it's a great idea. Like I agree, God gave me a good idea. So, okay, good idea, God, I'll do it. Um, but in the begin, so I knew I was going to do it. And I knew I wanted to do it at high quality because for so many years I had listened to podcasts, all different types of genres, all different types of like production quality, I guess. And so I've heard really high quality like audio sounding, like if they have really good microphones. I've heard ones where you can tell they're doing it like on their phone or something, and it doesn't sound as good. So from the beginning, I knew I was going to do it and I wasn't going to let anything stop me. And then I also knew that I wanted it to sound like excellent. I didn't want to just kind of half do it. I wanted it to be like the best it could be from day one. Like, of course, I'm still learning and, there's a process to that. But I was determined that it was going to be the best, to my ability. And so uh, I think one of the first things I did was Google like how to start a podcast. And I just was reading different articles and some of them were really overwhelming. It was just a whole lot of steps, and I was like, oh my god, like what do I do first? And then I would read another article, and then it would say some of the some things it would say the same as the first article, but some things it would be giving me totally different advice. And so I was like, well, now which one do I listen to? Um, and so I think I just kept I was overwhelmed. So then I said, okay, I'm done Googling. And then like the next day, I think I tried it again, and I found an article, and I said, okay, this is the one I'm going to stick to. I'm sure there's different ways to do things, but this is the list that looks simple. It's still a whole lot of things, but I'm like, this is the most simple one that I found. And so literally, I looked at the first two steps and I said, okay, I'm going to do the first step. And then when I do that, I'll do step two. Like, I didn't even look at if there was 10 steps, I didn't even look at the whole thing. I just said, okay, I'm going to do this tomorrow when I get off of work. So I still work, a regular full-time job. So when I get off of work, I'm going to do this tomorrow. And so I think, what did I do first? It seems kind of like all like a blur. I kind of wish I would have documented better, like the steps that I've taken. But one of the first things was finding a website that would distribute the podcast. And so I started with a website called Sounder. And so what they do is you take your audio clip or whatever and you upload it to Sounder, and then they'll automatically distribute it to like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. They'll automatically do all of that. So I don't have to go individually to each one and say upload, upload, upload. It's just into one and then it does all of them. And so Sounder had what's it called, a blog where they had like different tips and like trying to help you understand how to start a podcast. So I think I subscribed like on their website to get the tips. And so every day I was constantly like reading like little pieces of information until I was able to put it all together. Um, and literally, I mean, it was just started with that. And then the next thing was just recording some brief, I think I did like a 60-second introduction, like, hey guys, my name is Martina. I'm starting this podcast. This is why. And that was because as I was reading on how to start a podcast, they talked about different platforms having different time, or it taking longer on certain platforms for you to be approved. And so I knew in my mind when I had this idea, I think it was like January 21st, I knew that I needed maybe 3 or 4 months to kind of get everything like perfectly so that my launch would go unhitched. And so I knew, okay, April, okay, let's do the first Wednesday in April. Wednesday's the middle of the week, so people, you have a good weekend, you started going to work again, and now you need like a midweek pick me up, like you're feeling a little down or whatever. So I was like, Wednesday's a good day. And so I said, let's do the first Wednesday in April. And so then I started working backwards. Okay, so if April is my first episode, what do I need to do in between that time? And so, like Apple takes the longest to get approved. Spotify takes a little, like not as long. And so what I wanted to do was put out this first little 60-second thing that I've since deleted because it was irrelevant. I just wanted to make sure that everything got approved before April 1st. If I would have waited and said, yeah, April 1st is my date, and then try to release episode 1 on April 1st, on Spotify it would have came out on April 3rd, and on Apple it would have came out on April 10th. And so I feel like I'm super far away from your question now. But ultimately it was just literally just taking it one day at a time, one step at a time, not letting myself get overwhelmed, and just knowing that if I do this step today, I'm going to be one step closer tomorrow, and then just kind of just keep going with it. So I hope that kind of answered your question.
Okay, so every Wednesday you release a sound clip.
Yep. Every Wednesday an episode comes out at midnight. At midnight, my time. Yeah.
Okay, so what is your educational qualification?
So I didn't graduate college. My first year out of high school, I went to college for 1 year for pre-med, like to be a doctor. And I didn't really want to do that. It was just a lot of talk from my parents. Like we lived a middle class life, but they wanted more for me. And so they were like, which career path would make the most money? And so that's like a dumb reason to pick something. But, so I went to school for 1 year for that. And then the school that I chose was just way too expensive and I couldn't return. And so the second year I went to another college for criminal investigation. Why? Because it looked cool on TV, right? That was literally the only reason. Oh yeah, I can go solve crimes. Okay, sure, let's do this. And the college cost way less money, so um, so after the second year, I was like, stop. I don't know what I want to do. College is expensive in the U.S. I don't want to just keep getting more debt and not know what I really want in life to pursue. And so I just stopped. But I love learning. I love reading. And so ever since then, I've never stopped. Like I have like a whole bunch of books all over my bedroom here, different topics like self-help and business and finance and stuff like that. So I guess my passion now is like entrepreneurship, finance, investing. But yeah, so I don't have any type of background in podcasting or audio or speaking or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay, so education. You left the education and you don't want to be you don't want to do any job. You just want to speak.
Well, when you say it like that, I don't know. Yeah, my job now is cool, but it's definitely not my dream job. I like what I'm doing now. I feel like since I've started, I feel like other ideas um, have come to me that I can like branch off from the podcast into different things. Like I really like writing, and it comes naturally to me. So I started a blog a couple months ago. So I think I only have 2 posts right now. I'm gonna do like one a month just because I'm so busy already with the podcast. So I don't know. One day, might write a book, and that might open up other opportunities. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really know what the future holds, but I'm literally taking it one step at a time and looking at it from a big scale. Like my first step is this podcast. I don't know what the second step is going to be. Who knows? The second step could be writing a book. The third step could be, I don't know. So yeah,
What is your age?
I am 26. I will be 27 next month, August 30th.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you are from
How old are you?
how much do you think?
Uh, oh man. I feel like I cheated. I feel like I watched one of your YouTube videos and I should know the answer. Cause you asked a woman and she said, you're not supposed to ask, you're not supposed to ask women. I think she worked in finance and you asked her and she was like, no. She was from Florida.
Yes.
But I don't remember she asked you and I don't remember. 28? Are you
Yeah,
28? You are?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
whew.
1 year older than you.
Yeah.
So you said that you're into finance. You're a finance. I don't understand the
Yeah,
job
so
because I don't have much idea about it.
I work for a company and they make specialty wheelchairs. So if some people have really special, disabilities that like a traditional wheelchair, they need more than that. And so my company will like work with them to see what they need and like make it custom to them. And so that's what we do as a whole. But what I do is I work in the finance department. So most of these people, they have health insurance and the health insurance is the one who pays for their chair. And so what I do is we receive all these payments from the health insurance company, and then we have to look at the payment, figure out what patient it's for, and then just apply it in our system. So it's very simple. It's not anything where you specifically need like finance knowledge. It's literally just looking at, okay, they paid us this amount of money and it's for, Billy, and this is why we're paying it. You just kind of go in the system and click, click, type, type. Very simple, but I like it because I can zone out. It's because it's so easy and it's very repetitive. And so while I'm at work all day, I'm listening to music, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to audiobooks. And so I like it because it doesn't require a whole lot of me, like mentally. There are some days that are tough where, sometimes these insurance companies pay and it's really confusing and I have to call them because nothing makes sense. And so those days are a little more stressful, but I like having the low stress job so that when I get home, I can still have a little bit of energy to work on my passions. Like I'm making, whoever rich who owns this company, but it's like I have my own dreams. I'm young. I didn't finish school, but I'm entrepreneurial and I have my own things that I want to do. And so it's cool because I can come home and still have enough energy to do what I want to do. So.
Okay, so how much time you take to record a single clip?
So okay, I like each episode to be, at first I said 20 minutes, but then some people's stories were so good, like you couldn't really cut it to 20 minutes. Um, and so I would tell people when I would ask them, hey, do you want to be a guest on my podcast and share your story? And they say yes. I would explain to them, you know, you're going to be narrating your story. I'm not going to be talking much in the beginning. It's just going to be you. And then at the end, I'll ask my questions. And I want your portion to be anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. And that's what I would tell them. Well, some people would go way longer than that. Some people would go 45 minutes or an hour. And then uh, when I first started the podcast, I really wanted 20 or 25 minutes because I felt like that was a good time to like keep people's attention if they were like for a listener to come to the podcast. I felt like 20 or 25 minutes was a good amount of time for them not to lose interest. And it's also kind of like the same amount of time. Like if you're driving to work, maybe your commute is 25 minutes. So, it seems like a good time. So if someone would go 45 minutes or an hour, initially, like the first month and a half or whatever, I would cut that down to like 20 minutes because I told them up front, like, this is what I was looking for. And if they didn't honor it, then I would still like try to edit and cut out pieces, which was really hard to do because sometimes it was something really important, but I tried to make their story make sense even though I cut out like half of it. And so each recording can take, any amount of time, because now it's just like sometimes they're really good and I just let the person go on. I don't want to stop them. So that happens. But when I introduce them and the intro music, and then at the end of each episode, I have like a clip, like a sneak peek of next week's episode. Those parts I record like later. Like I can record it right now while I'm in the room by myself. Like I don't introduce them like on our recording call. I literally just do the recording, and then everything else happens, like all the editing, and then me tacking on the intro and the outro and all that. That happens like after the fact. So that could take the intro and outro that I do probably takes like 10 or 15 minutes. It could probably take less, but sometimes I feel like my voice sounds boring, so I'm re-recording the same thing over and over again. Like, hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Sometimes I say it weird because I'm bored or I've been sitting in my room all day and I'm like, hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. And it's boring. But yeah, so it should take like 5 minutes, but sometimes it takes like 10. Yeah.
What is the mic that you use?
You want to see it?
Yeah,
You want to see it?
yeah.
Oh, let's see. Okay, can you see it?
Yeah.
This is the microphone that I use. So again, when I first started, I just Googled podcast microphones,
Okay.
and this one was really popular. There are so many, because I feel like people get paid to sponsor, like market stuff, and so some people will say, "Oh, this microphone is the best," but it's because if they sell X amount of microphones, they're going to get a percentage, So you have to see,
Okay.
well, how many people recommend this one, and so multiple people recommended it online, and I don't know, I like it. It's really cool because it's USB, if you can kind of
Okay.
see. So I
Yeah,
can
I
just
can
plug it
see that.
into yeah, I can just plug it into my computer. So that's nice. I don't have to have like some external thing to hook it up. And then it's also cool because I know it's kind of
You don't
weird.
need power for that.
Um, yeah, no power. You just plug it in. So right now it's off because it's not plugged into my laptop. But yeah, no power.
Okay.
And then right here there's a little hole for the headphones. You can put your headphones in. So as I'm speaking, I can hear myself.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I like that. So yeah, it's a really cool microphone. It wasn't the cheapest, but I feel like it was really worth it. So I wanted to sound quality. I didn't want to necessarily just use the microphone that's built into my laptop. So
How
yeah,
much? How much it is?
yeah. So this, because it came with this really cool stand, um, I think it was like $300. So it's kind of pricey.
Okay.
But I knew it was like it's a one-time purchase, and for however long I decide to do the podcast, like it's always gonna be my microphone.
Okay.
So felt like it was worth it.
I have a doubt. You will be recording podcast using this mic, right? It costs
Hmm.
$300, and which in which you can record your voice exactly like you have, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
But people have different mobile phones or the devices in which they listen. They have different devices. Uh, do they listen the same quality voice that you give from this mic?
No. So yeah, everyone uses their own, whether it's a
Devices.
phone or laptop. Yeah. So there's kind of really no way to control that when you have different guests each time. Now, I've listened to business podcasts who they're interviewing like other businesses and other people who speak or who do courses and stuff like that. So I've seen where a business podcast, they're interviewing, the caliber of people they're interviewing are also very much into the quality of their voice. And so they also have a microphone. And so for me, I want to, interview and have people from all different walks of life. And so no one that I've interviewed has had like a microphone, and I don't expect them to. So the audio, it's up and down, from week to week, just depending on, who I have, but it's not low quality. If it was low quality, I would maybe reconsider the guests that I have or how I get guests. Obviously now with Corona, going around, you can't really, interview people in person. I mean, you could, but I don't want to risk it. Um, but on I have a MacBook, and on the Apple MacBook laptop they have GarageBand, and so that's what I use to edit. and there's this really cool thing. I don't even really know how to describe it, but you can like put it on the audio recording, so it makes it sound better and like higher quality. So like they have different sound effects that you can put on the audio clip, like a robot voice, which of course I would never use that. But then they have something called narration, and so it just makes people's voice sound clearer. And so whenever I have a recording from a guest, I always put the narration like sound effect on it, and so it makes it sound better. So I try to do whatever I can on my end, but yeah.
I'm asking about the listeners and different people listens from different devices, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So with the way that I go about making sure that I'm recording at a high quality, I think I think the listener will still get that high quality from listening to it. I don't think a lot of that is lost. Obviously, if someone has really crappy headphones, like $5 headphones, then yeah, it might not sound as good. But for the most part, I mean, I put a lot of effort into making sure it sounds good, so it should, sound good no matter what they have. But I can't control that, so I don't know. I just do the best that I can on my end, at least. So.
My next question is, you will be listening to a lot of people's stories, right?
Mhm.
They'll be narrating their stories and whatever they experience in their life, they'll be uh, explaining about that. What do you
Mhm.
think that personally?
Hold on. You were breaking up a little bit. Can you ask the last part of your question again?
What do you think about the stories that you listen from different country people or different thinking people who comes to you as a guest?
So I mean, I have people from different countries, but because it's a Christian podcast and the focus is on God, and I mean, people believe in different gods, but the focus is on the Christian God, and so it's not necessarily people who have different ways of thinking. I mean, even within Christianity, everyone doesn't agree on everything all the time, and so, but for the most part, everyone pretty much kind of thinks the same. Now, people have different walks of life and like how they came to know God. Like for me, I was born and raised in the church, and my parents went to church, so I went to church. And so, I may not have like a super radical story of like, I was doing drugs and I was doing all this stuff because I was pretty sheltered, like growing up the way my parents raised me. So we have different walks of life, but having accepted like Jesus Christ into our lives, our ways of thinking are the same. Some people maybe have only known Jesus Christ for like 3 months. And so their perspective on everything is going to be a little bit different than someone who, has known God for, 10 or
For
20
years.
years. So, there's similarities and there's differences, but I don't know. Everyone's usually
So,
easy to talk to.
so you'll be talking only about God, and the people who comes to you talks only about God.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's the whole
Okay.
point of the podcast. So yeah. Yeah.
The only
That's
so
what
the only story they say is only about God, and
mhm.
different people have different percentage of information about God. That is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, so I mean, I I seek out Christians, and so that kind of eliminates a lot of maybe different thoughts. Um so I'm I'm never in a position where I'm like interviewing or talking with someone who believes something like totally totally different. And like we don't go deep into the beliefs. So someone could be on there talking about how they feel like God has helped them through life. Um, and it could be slightly different than my view on God, but I mean, because it's so personal.
Correct.
Everyone has to kind of
Correct.
sense it and feel it themselves. So yeah.
Okay. So today I want people to know about podcast and a person who lives in United States do podcast, and I just want to introduce you to my audience
Yes,
and
thank
to
you.
Indian to Indians who are
Yes,
interested
that's
in
awesome.
podcast. So, and next time whenever you're free, I want to talk about your belief
Okay.
system, and
Yeah.
your thoughts about Christianity, and your thoughts about God, and your thoughts about different gods and different
Yeah.
countries and what you feel.
Yeah.
Whenever you're free, I'll do one more video. Today, I just want
Okay.
to show you to my audience. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for giving your valuable time to me.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thanks for sharing your experience and your knowledge. Can I put this video on my YouTube channel?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have anything to say to the people who watches this video?
Yeah, sure. Check out my podcast, guys. It's just called Testimony Service. So if you Google it, it should pop up. Or if you have Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts, you just search it and you'll see it and listen to an episode or two and let me know what you guys think. You can always email me. My email's usually on there. So yeah, I'd love for you guys to be a part of the journey. So yeah.
Go on. I think you're doing great job. I want you to reach more audience. I want you to
Yeah.
reach more people in the world.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.